Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to pick up on a few matters, I suppose, related to the latest scandal to hit Boris Johnson. But I don't want to talk about that particularly. It's more a look at the wider look at how it's not a case of a rotten prime minister propped up by a party of otherwise genuine politicians for political reasons, but how the rot is everywhere on the government benches. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So before I go over some specific MPs, I want to consider what Conservative MPs have been doing in the last year. During the urgent situation of the pandemic, during the self-inflicted emergencies of Brexit, what were they doing? They were voting in favour of allowing water companies to dump raw sewage into our rivers. They initially hesitated because of the public backlash, and the government agreed to put legal protections in place. Then the Owen Paterson scandal broke. During the furore, the government went back on their promise to install legal protections into the Environment Bill and, against the will of the people, voted through the almost unrestrained power for water companies to dump crap in our waterways. This is now happening, and our water quality, which is already not great, has declined further. Then there's the Owen Paterson scandal itself. A man who abused his position to lobby the government, motivated by his own financial interests, was found to have fallen below the standards expected of MPs. He was to face a suspension from the Commons. This was agreed by a cross-party group, including Conservative MPs. Boris Johnson saw an opportunity to not only get a corrupt Tory MP off this fairly light punishment, which would have been over now, but remove the standard system that might soon be investigating his own corrupt, unlawful flat redecoration. Conservative MPs voted to smash the entire standard system up for the sake of corrupt colleagues. They were only thwarted because of a massive and, frankly, unexpected public backlash. If the public had nodded along, as they so often have with Boris Johnson, as they may well have done a year earlier, it would have been done. He'd have got away with it. Conservative MPs have also voted to prevent peaceful protest. Even standing on a pavement with a sign of protest could see you facing prison because of their votes. There may be scales of morality within the Conservative Party in Parliament, but it does not span good and evil, or even public-spirited and selfish. No MP who votes to take away someone's right to peaceful protest can consider themselves to be acting either for good or for the public interest. There are a number of other things that they will be voting through this year, some quite soon, the Nationality and Borders Bill and so on, that are as bad, in some cases worse. Then we have Daniel Kaczynski, who's also set for Commons suspension, albeit just for one day in his case, for trying to trash the reputation of Commons procedures for dealing with bullying cases in the media. Effectively, he tried to bully the people who deal with bullying. This is also the same guy who speaks Polish but still didn't mind spending £22,000 of public money on lessons to speak Polish. He tried to justify it by saying he only had a very basic understanding of the language but needed to speak more fluently at delegations, but he claimed to be able to speak fluently a few years ago. So either he was lying then or he's lying now. Either way, he's a liar as well as a bully. And most recently, the corruption that caught the public's attention was the illegal Downing Street parties. Now, you may imagine that this is essentially down to Boris Johnson alone. Like, no other politicians have been directly implicated in these. It's like Boris Johnson and his staff. We might wonder why Rishi Sunak didn't say anything because he lives in the same place. Why didn't he notice? But there have been other less publicised cases of rules-breaking parties in some other ministers' departments as well. But even then, that's a limited number of Tory MPs breaking the rules, isn't it? Well, yes, but my issue is, what did Conservative MPs do about it when they found out? When the news broke, some Conservative MPs did call out the lack of probity, but most stuck by the Prime Minister and went along with his obvious lies. That's why he's still in place now. That they will eventually force Johnson to stand down is not because his lies are being exposed, because they were exposed a long time ago. It's because they are going to lose the next election if they allow him to remain as their leader. And they know that Johnson is going to have to go. So why hasn't he? I'm assuming the process hasn't been triggered before this video comes out. It's one of those where it may take months, but it may happen any day. But even if it has happened, it's taken a long time. Why the delay? Because there's political advantage in keeping him in place in order to shield the next leader from problems to come. But if you think about what that means, it's like, yeah, you have to play the political game to win power. I don't ever want to criticise a politician for doing things that are necessary to maintain power. Some of the things that politicians have to do, on the face of it, it's like, well, it's not really what you should be doing, is it? It's like, no, but you have to be realistic. But why not get rid of Johnson if he's hurting the party and the country's reputation, and you know he's going to have to go anyway? Because they do not believe that a more suitable successor will be able to do anything to deal with the actual problems of the country, the rising cost of living, the realities of Brexit, the pandemic, levelling up promises. In other words, they know that their policies have led to permanent damage to the country, and they equally know that there is no fixing it with the Conservative mindset. If they believed that a better, more competent, more hard-working Prime Minister could actually govern properly and deal with even some of the country's major problems, they would be replacing Johnson immediately. It would already have happened. That they are not is because they know they're swindlers. They are keeping Johnson in place because they are resigned to the national damage to come. Some even relish it. They are protecting Johnson's successor for the blame for it because they expect it to happen no matter who is leading the government. And that speaks to me of a wholly rotten party in Westminster. Bear in mind, it only takes a little over 50 Tory MPs to trigger the confidence motion. That it's, after all these weeks of scandal, had not happened, at least at the point at which I'm recording this. That means you've got a maximum of about 51, 52-ish Tory MPs who are appalled by this. And even if you sort of take the view, and again, this is playing the political game, that there's no point in putting your letter in unless you're certain you've got at least 181 MPs to bring him down. Because if you trigger that confidence motion and Boris Johnson wins it, you can do nothing against him for 12 months. But even then, what does that mean? Boris Johnson has shown no interest in governing at all from day one. He didn't want to become Prime Minister to bring in some grand vision, as some of his predecessors have, or even to help the country out at a tricky time, again, as some other predecessors have. He wanted to become Prime Minister just for the sake of becoming Prime Minister. He has treated accession to his position as one long party. He hasn't even been discreet about it. He couldn't even quietly enjoy the trappings of power. He had to beg a Tory donor to fund his lavish Downing Street flat redecoration. He got another to pay for high-class takeaway meals. Tens of thousands of pounds on takeaways in a year. And it's not just that he goes on holiday multiple times a year, or even that he gets Tory donors to pay for those as well. He goes on holiday during times of national crisis. He tells the most ridiculous lies. It's not even like they're clever webs of deceit. They're ridiculous lies, childish lies. We see email proof that the Prime Minister's principal private secretary sent a message inviting over 100 people to a bring your own booze party at Downing Street, and Johnson expects us to believe that one, he didn't know about it, and even when he attended the party, he still didn't know about it. Consider what he's saying. He's saying that his private secretary, without his permission, invited a load of people round to Johnson's home and office for an illegal bender without his notice. Now, if that were true, why didn't he sack that secretary when he found out? And the example he sets encourages senior members of the government to think that they can ignore the rules, which many have. And whether it be Raab's negligence over Afghanistan or Patel's bullying behaviour or Cummings's eyesight test at Barnard Castle, they all had free rein to do as they please because Johnson cannot expect them to do otherwise with his example. And right now we have a situation where at least half of all Tory MPs will accept this behaviour because they have not removed him from office. When they do, like I say, it won't be because of the behaviour, because the behaviour has been known about for some time. It will be because of the public reaction. And senior ministers have been degrading the truth in order to protect Johnson. Jacob Rees-Mogg, unsurprisingly, is the worst. He is trying to now suggest that their own rules were maybe a little confusing and too harsh. In other words, they got it wrong. In order to make the Prime Minister look less guilty, they are prepared to make themselves look more incompetent. He's also decided to strike another blow for Scottish independence. When Scottish Conservative leader Douglas Ross publicly said that Johnson needs to resign, Moggy dismissed him as a political lightweight. OK, so the leader of all Conservatives in Scotland is a political lightweight. With one statement, he completely dismisses the importance of Scotland. Naturally, this caused Scottish Conservative politicians to hit back. Well done, Moggy. You've just started a war with Scottish members of your own party. Well played, you great tool. And then, if that wasn't enough, he took an ill-advised shot at Wales as well, albeit this one was a forced error. He was asked in Parliament, can you name the Welsh Conservative leader then? In the manner that only someone with a posh education but no brains can, he confidently responded with a name. Unfortunately, it was the wrong name. Didn't actually know. So at a stroke, he has said that he doesn't care about even Conservatives in Scotland or Wales. So how much less will he regard other people there? See, this is why Jacob Rees-Mogg was told to stop talking during the 2019 general election. Keep your mouth shut until the polls have closed, if you don't mind, Moggy. And here I am, out of time, and I haven't even talked about Priti Patel, Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss, Sajid Javid, Brandon Lewis, or any of the other senior Tories who are all up to their eyes in sleaze and, frankly, downright corruption. When Johnson goes, we might get a more competent government, but we will not get a more worthy one, because the entire barrel is rotten as far as I can see, and the stench is overpowering now. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.